Welcome back. And if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe if you like the content, and glad to have you here. I'm Molly. I'm a freelance SEO expert, and today I wanted to dive in looking at a couple of studies that were recently published, just looking at the overlap between LLMs, so the AI systems such as Perplexity, Gemini, and the first study that we look at is the query study. So a large query study comparing over 18,000 queries. And these are more of a traditional type search query. And so the study was kind of looking at the overlap between regular Google search results versus ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity citations. And the findings showed about 40% of citations cited with AI systems. There was about 40% overlap between the AI systems and Google's top 10 search results, meaning 60% of the sources used by AI came from outside of the top ranking pages that we see in traditional Google search. So when you hear that study, you're thinking, okay, maybe I need to switch gears over into AEO. And I'm looking at from a local business perspective, because Google is still king. I mean, I will show a chart that looks at the share of clicks for desktop and desktop visits, and you will see that Google has about 92% desktop share visits. So what's also important to note is that there is enormous growth in the AI adoption rate. So there is more usage. Millions of people are using AI systems, so that is important to keep in mind. But for now, Google is still king. But I think we can kind of dive into more of the nuances. So again, this query study is something to keep in mind too as we go through the other studies. So this was looking at the shorter tail queries, so kind of trying to match the typical type Google search query, plumber near me type deal. And so that's just what I'm thinking for local business. But when we look at the other prompt study, so number 2 is looking at 15,000 long tail prompts. And typically what I see is, a lot of the LLM prompts are longer tail. And there are studies too that look at the average tail of the prompt versus Google. So when users are going to Google, it's a shorter prompt when comparing versus, the LLM and the AI systems, because they are, used heavily in a conversational manner. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. So prompt number 2 study, looking at 15,000 long tail prompts, found that, only about 12% of AI citations overlapped with Google's top 10 search results. Okay, so meaning people that are using these AI systems, 80% of the pages that are cited by AI aren't even ranking in the top results. So if you are a local business owner and you are wondering, do I have to start pivoting my marketing strategy? I think it's important to look at the growth rate, and it's important to look at your current performance. And you can find that in Google Analytics. If you don't have that set up, please let me know. I will help you. The third study is the domain diversity study. So looking at over 55,000 queries to see how different the AI models cite between themselves. So there is diversity between the models themselves, because this revealed that 37% of the domains cited by LLMs were completely unique. 11% of the domains cited by ChatGPT and Perplexity. So that's telling us that these models are largely fragmented. So they are pulling different sources for citations. Whereas traditionally in SEO, if you're optimizing for Google, you're optimizing. So what does it mean for you? Well, first, like I said, look at your current status. Where are your top conversions coming from? What channel is producing those, historically speaking? So is it Google Organic? Is it local Google business profile? Is it social media? So like identifying the top driver, depending on what type of business you are. And then also break out if you are actually capturing traffic from LLMs currently, so if assuming you had SEO done, likely you already are gaining traffic from these LLM systems. And I would break out the region and the landing page associated with referral traffic, to see how are they actually behaving on the site once they enter. And something interesting that I saw, when I was coming into some newer accounts before they had kind of my vision that I have for SEO, I'm big into local SEO, and I leverage, the geo modifiers and quality content. So making sure I've got content coverage for all services, and then the informational side of things. So looking at the topical authority of the site, the internal linking structure, things like that, what I'm breaking out in the SEO. And so prior to me making my preferences and changes on the site, I was seeing a lot of irrelevant traffic coming from LLMs, and I saw that on multiple brands when I first was coming in. And I also noted that a lot of the traffic was primarily to blogs that ultimately just had no conversions whatsoever. And after rolling out, the foundational fixes and the cleanup, content coverage and things like that, I started seeing on several brands where the traffic is actually producing conversions and from the LLM traffic. And I'm seeing the landing page difference. So the page type now, we're getting service pages cited in the LLMs, and people are entering that way. And then also in the region side of things. So as I was clarifying the brand entity and, who they are, what they do and where, all that clarity has helped not only on the SEO side of things, but with the AEO visibility and performance. And now I'm seeing, ChatGPT traffic really starting to produce conversions for these local brands, which I thought is really interesting. And, as we go through and have more conversations and talk about pivoting to more of an AEO strategy, I think something to keep in mind, if you are working with a company already, something to think about, differences between AEO and SEO. So AEO, when I'm looking at, what is performing with getting cited and mentioned in these AI systems, is looking at the formatting. So seeing which pages are getting preferential treatment, and then also like the sites, the sources that LLMs are pulling from too. So what we can find in these studies and just in practice, the LLM systems are looking for uniqueness. They're looking for trust and credibility from sources like Reddit and BBB, Angie. So like these top domains And when you look at the type of sites that they're sourcing, it's either competitive or corporate sites or user generated content or review sites too. So all of these are adding to the visibility in the LLMs. And another important piece, as I mentioned, was uniqueness. And if you can, make sure you're covering all these different attributes on your website and consistency on your citations and directories, make sure that these attributes are consistent, you have a positive sentiment and positive rankings. So all those things are really tying into it. I'm seeing a lot of BBB, and typically the LLMs are preferring the top rated accredited BBB listings to cite. So if you're A plus or A even accredited, and then also like any warranty information and all these different attributes actually increase your visibility potential. So the key takeaway is that SEO is not dead. And you will see in the chart that I share that SEO still matters, and AEO is something worth looking into, and it could be a missed opportunity if you're not really thinking about it. I'm happy to set up a call. So if you are interested, or if you have any questions or feedback, please let me know. Thank you.